Previously, we exposed the fraudulent gym leaders who really didn't deserve their high-ranking positions. Mostly Ice-type ones. But which gym leaders actually do a pretty darn good job at posing a serious challenge? So good morning everybody, good morning, it's GPR, and today we're going to find the best gym leader in every Pokemon region using the following criteria. How good are they at covering their type's weaknesses, what advanced strategies do they employ, and are they better than their rank gives them credit for? As usual, beginning with Kanto, the first gym leader I want to highlight is Misty. I mentioned this in the intro of the worst gym leaders video, but Misty is almost always a challenge due to her imposing Starmie. A Pokemon with stats that are nowhere close to an early game boss, especially in Gen 1 where it has a special stat of 100. And surprisingly, Misty gets a pretty massive upgrade in Let's Go. She subs her Staryu out for Psyduck, which has confusion to deal with common grass poison types like Bulbasaur, Oddish, and Bellsprout. And her Starmie, in addition to having the ludicrous move Scald at only level 19, also has Psywave to deal with these same grass poison types. If only Partner Pikachu weren't the most broken starter of all time, this would be a really tough fight. Unfortunately, Misty's coverage in Gen 1 as well as Fire Red and Leaf Green isn't so good though, and she's extremely easy to beat with Bulbasaur, so the one to truly be crowned Kanto's best gym leader is Sabrina. Obviously, Sabrina has the benefit of specializing in Gen 1's most broken type, Psychic, with absolutely nothing other than Beedrill's Twin Needle dealing substantial damage to it. And even then, are you seriously bringing this part poison type to a Psychic gym? Yeah, I didn't think so. Even in Pokemon Yellow, where her team is considerably weakened to make her more accurate to the anime, her ace Alakazam is elevated to an absolutely insane level 50. A whopping jump of 9 levels from Giovanni, who was fought immediately beforehand at Stilfco. If this was the only Pokemon on her team, then she would still be the hardest gym leader in the game. In fact, Alakazam pretty much carries her in every single game except Let's Go, where its moveset only includes Psychic and the rather disappointing Nightshade. But the rest of her team is substantially upgraded. Unless you go out of your way to trade for one of the Dark-type Alolan forms, Raticate, Persian, or Muck, this should be a pretty tough fight. Or you just have an Eevee with Baddie Bad. Dear lord, I cannot take this game seriously. Moving on to Johto, there's actually a surprisingly really tough early game stretch, maybe the toughest in any Pokemon game. Bugsy, Whitney, and Morty are maybe the most stacked consecutive lineup of gym leaders in the entire series. Now, yes, Bugsy, like Yellow Sabrina, has 2 Pokemon on his team that you could very easily write off, as Metapod and Kakuna are unlikely to do anything. Why these weren't like Pineco and Ladybug, I don't know, just Johto things. But Scyther is incredibly strong for both the original games and the remakes. Once again, these stats are entirely too good for a second gym leader's Pokemon. Fury Cutter has the potential to snowball into an unstoppable machine if the AI is smart enough to keep clicking it, and in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it gets upgraded to the much more reliable U-turn. Even if it can't reach the same heights as Fury Cutter, getting hit with a 70 base power stab move doesn't feel too good at this stage in the game. Plus, its quick attack also got powered up here thanks to Technician. So don't sleep on Bugsy just for being a bug-type gym leader. Unfortunately, his one strike against him is that he has nothing to really stop Quilava or Geodude users. Morty is amazingly strong simply due to his Gengar. If you're unlucky enough to get put to sleep multiple times with Hypnosis, this fight can quickly spiral out of control. It's hard to say whether he's tougher in the originals or the remakes though. Dream Eater is a huge plus for his Gold and Silver incarnation, but Shadow Ball being a special move in Heart Gold and Soul Silver massively adds to his damage output. But Sucker Punch is a little unnecessary, I think. And aside from Umbreon or a very fast Kadabra, there's pretty much no easy answers for this Gengar at this stage in the game. Now let's compare against Whitney. Whitney's Miltank is something that Gen Z has been trauma bonding about since 2000, and it's easy to see why. Its high speed stat makes it faster than pretty much any Pokemon you can get by this point. Stomp is a powerful stab move with a decent flinch chance. Attract will more than likely take your starter Pokemon out of the fight since they always have an 87.5% chance of being male. Oh yeah, I'm whipping out math here, that's how you know it's serious. Milk Drink gives Whitney effectively 5 more potions than the average gym leader, and with a bit of luck, Rollout is capable of sweeping an entire team. And surprisingly, Game Freak looked at this demon and said, let's make it even better in the remakes. Now it holds the Lumberry, the only ace in all of Johto to not use the usual Citrus Berry. So you actually have to survive long enough to poison, burn, or paralyze it twice. And instead of giving it Thick Fat, they intentionally gave it Scrappy so it can hit ghost types. They do not make gym leaders like this anymore. Pretty much the only solid options are to trade for the Machop in the Goldenrod department store so you'll actually have a fighting type, or use a Graveler to Kamikaze Explode and make that cow into a well-done burger. Honestly, I believe that Whitney and Morty are evenly matched on most playthroughs. However, the only reason I may tip the scales in Whitney's favor is that Clefairy is a total wildcard, especially in Nuzlockes, where Metronome could summon a killer move out of nowhere. And also, Whitney is a 3rd gym leader while Morty is a 4th, so I think it's more impressive for an earlier gym leader to be this difficult. For Hoenn, the answer does depend on which game you're playing. If it's Emerald we're talking, then it's 100% Liza and Tate. As a double battle, this match is filled with strategy. Claydol is likely going to lead with Light Screen, lowering the powers of the special types of Water, Grass, and Dark. Remember, Gen 3 mechanics. All of which are the types you'd typically use to win against their team. This Claydol can also fire off Stab Earthquakes while its partner Xatu or Solrock is immune to it. Xatu is likely to set up Sunny Day on the first turn, further lowering the power of Surf and other water-type moves, while making Solrock's Solar Beam and Flamethrower incredibly threatening. Furthermore, this is the only time that 2 Pokemon both hold Citrus Berries on one team, since both Solrock and Lunatone are considered ace Pokemon. Don't let the fact that Solrock and Lunatone are usually bad Pokemon distract you from how deadly some of their strategies can be. You'll either have to rely on niche moves like Fake Out or the lone TM of Rain Dance to escape this battle unscathed. However, there's one problem. Liza and Tate suck in Ruby and Sapphire and the remakes because they don't have Claydol and Xatu to give their aces the support they desperately need. So the overall winner of Hoenn, I would say, is Winona. In pretty much every incarnation, Winona is a relatively hard fight. In all of the Gen 3 games, she just has an Altaria that is blatantly illegal, both being beneath the level that Swablu is supposed to evolve at, and knowing Dragon Dance 7 levels too early. She also carries Earthquake on her Altaria in every game to get rid of those pesky electric and rock types, and she need not worry about Ice because Ice is just a myth in Hoenn. All of them are available after this point in the game. But even if she did, Skarmory is always on her team with Steel Wing, so she even wins hypothetical situations. She is definitely slightly worse in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, with Dragon Dance being taken out of her moveset and Altaria just being a worse Pokemon in general without the old physical special mechanics, so it can't use Dragon Breath as a physical move anymore. But overall, pretty much all the gym leaders are downgraded in ORAS, and the rest of her team is still solid, so she maintains her title as the best. Now, Sinnoh is another tough pick, especially in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where almost all the gym leaders have crack strategies that have worked at some point or another. Fantina is a good starting point. Although her 3 Pokemon in Diamond and Pearl and the remakes look incredibly impressive, their movesets have always been kinda odd. Drifblim has a pretty horrid moveset by Gen 4 standards. Gengar exclusively uses physical moves in Diamond and Pearl, and still carries Shadow Claw over Shadow Ball in the remakes for some reason, and Mismagius goes for Phantom Force over Shadow Ball in the remakes. So while the team members are definitely there, her moves are not. But in Platinum, she does have a case for being the best, simply because there aren't many great options to deal with Mismagius by this point in the game. Volkner appears to have a vague idea of how to beat ground types in Diamond and Pearl, as well as their remakes. Hilariously, he actually gets the Surfing Raichu in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and he has Octillery to deal with surviving ground types, but overall, the team just isn't that good due to the Sinnoh Dex's limited electric types. While he does get Jolteon and Electivire added to his team in Platinum, his coverage actually gets much worse, as only Luxray has Ice Fang to deal with ground types, and all things considered, Luxray is pretty easy to deal with at this point in the game. So Sinnoh's true strongest leader is none other than Maylene. And honestly, it's simply due to how cracked her Lucario is. Bone Rush covers a weakness against fire in the Gen 4 games, the Steel typing makes it a perfect counter for typical flying and psychic types that beat fighting, and in BDSP, the entire team gets upgraded. Meditite plays pure support with Flash and Light Screen while holding Light Clay, Machoke takes out common psychic and flying threats with Knockoff and Rock Tomb, while holding Expert Belt for a 20% power boost. He also carries Bulldoze to deal with fire types so that Lucario can safely come in and start setting up with Bulk Up. Drain Punch is considerably stronger in these games than it was in Gen 4, and it also holds the Big Root so it should almost fully heal every time it uses Drain Punch. In a Nuzlocke, surviving this fight without a death, or several, is incredibly rare. But if you want to survive this and more fights, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more helpful Pokemon tips and trivia. We're almost to 250,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it. Moving on to Unova, this region also has several threats. Elisa is definitely annoying in both pairs of games, but there are some accessible options like Krokorok and Bulldor that can make this fight really easy. So in Black and White, another early gym leader takes the cake, Lenora. Lenora proves that there's nothing wrong with the basics, as her simple duo of Herdier and Watchog are pretty tough. Herdier leads with Intimidate to weaken any fighting types you may have brought, and Watchog cleans up quickly with the incredibly powerful moves of Retaliate and Crunch. Watchog may not normally be considered a tough Pokemon, but this early in the game, this thing is quite the formidable boss. Lenora's AI is also programmed to switch her Pokemon more often than normal so she can get her Herdier back in for a second Intimidate or a powered up Retaliate if needed. So it's a rare case of a gym leader who actually has two really good Pokemon. In Black 2 and White 2, however, Lenora is retired, and the one to take her spot as Unova's hardest gym leader is for once a late game boss, Drayden. Regardless of whether you're playing normal mode or challenge mode, Drayden's coverage is insane. He has a Sheer Force Druddigan with Rock Slide and Revenge for Ice types, Flygon also has Rock Slide for Ice types, and in challenge mode, if your Ice types are still alive, he has Fire Blast and Altaria for Ice types. This guy really does not like ice. Oh, and his ace is a Dragon Dancing Haxorus, which is like one of the scariest things in all of Unova. I think Game Freak consciously gave him Dragon Tail instead of Dragon Claw because if not, this fight might have been unwinnable for less experienced players. That and the gym leader always has to advertise the new generation's moves, even if they're bad. Now Drayden, you'd go join Bryson in the corner and make a public apology for endorsing Big TM. In Kalos, only one gym leader sticks out as an immediate threat. Heck, only one NPC sticks out as a threat, and that NPC is Grant. In a game that is lauded for being a stark step down in difficulty, Grant stands his ground as yet another second gym leader powerhouse. Aside from Liza and Tate, he's the only gym leader in the franchise with two ace Pokemon at the same level, Amara and Tyrant. Despite Amara's bad typing, it can easily mess your strategy up with Thunder Wave and a Refrigerate boosted takedown. Since Refrigerate adds both the 50% stab multiplier and an additional 30% multiplier, this move hits with 175 power, making it the most powerful attack ever used by a gym leader this early in the game. As for Tyrant, it's just a generally strong Pokemon with few counters available at this point in the game. Rock Tomb is a hard-hitting stab attack, Stomp gives it the benefit of occasionally flinching your best Pokemon, and Strong Jaw makes Bite hit with a very respectable 90 power. No other Kalos gym leader comes even remotely close to the sauce that Grant has. Okay, so last time people got kinda mad that I skipped Alola since you can actually battle all of the trial captains, but I just want to say that trial captains are a bit harder to quantify because you fight them under very different circumstances across both pairs of games. Some you only fight very early, some you only fight very late, and some are even version exclusive. Also, Acerola is literally an Elite Four member, and that's the only time you fight her in either pair of games, so overall comparing trial captains just isn't fair. And again, kinda pointless because Acerola kinda wins by default. But if people are still pressed about it, I can compare kahunas. And I will say that Nanu is easily the best of the four. I know, Nanu's team looks bad, but the way it's trained is actually quite good, especially in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Sableye is built with maxed out special attacks, so it actually hits rather hard even as a Sableye. Krokorok is not only jolly natured, but is also maxed out in attack and speed. So it's just a pure glass cannon that will KO way more Pokemon than you think with Earthquake and Crunch. And his Alolan Persian is also max speed and max special attack with a timid nature. So it will be firing that extremely powerful Z move. That much you can be certain of. It even carries Power Gem to deal with its extra weakness to fire since it has Fur Coat as an ability, which also means you probably can't KO it with Mach Punch immediately. Normally I don't go this in-depth on teams, but I only did it here because Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are the only games where trainers' teams are actually built with this much depth to them. Most other games do not bother to assign good natures, IVs, or EVs. Also, Nanu is like the only kahuna to have a team consisting of purely fast Pokemon, which, as I mentioned in the Worst Leaders video, that is almost always better to have than a team of slow, tanky Pokemon, at least if you're an NPC. Also, since I didn't do it last time, the worst is Olivia. Her team isn't good in either version, rock types in general just have many counters in Alola, and again, can't count the Elite Four fight because it literally isn't fair. But even then, she's probably the worst Elite Four member too. Galar, congratulations! You are literally the only region where I can confidently say that the last gym leader is actually the toughest. Raihan simply has the best coverage among all the gym leaders in the game by a wide margin. He is more than prepared to deal with any ice types or fairy types you bring. He is basically a ground-type gym leader disguised as a dragon-type gym leader, so at least the first time you fight him, you probably will not be prepared for his Sandstorm team. And even if you are, his Flygon and Sandaconda both have moves that beat water and grass. And his Duraludon is easily the best G-Max Mon of any gym leader. Max Rockfall and Max Steel Spike both deal with ice types, Max Knuckle is just one of the best max moves in general, and Breaking Swipe, which is already a great doubles move, gets turned into a fairly decent stab attack as G-Max Depletion. It's really not a contest, which is why his second battle with the league is so disappointing. He just becomes too obsessed with weather and making a team that has zero chemistry together. But good thing for him, we're only ranking initial gym battles, so I'll forgive him for that one, just this once. Moving on to Paldea, I already gave my overview of all the gym leaders here in my worst leaders video, and if you listen to my analysis there, then you may already know who I think Paldea's best leader is. And that is Ino. Bellybolt is a pretty solid secondary ace Pokemon with Water Gun to deal with ground types, and Electromorphosis Spark hits everything else pretty hard. But beyond that, she's maybe the only gym leader in Paldea to not completely screw her own ace over by terastallizing it. Every other gym leader doing a Terra into their own type just makes it that much easier to sweep them with the types they're weak to. But in Ino's case, she makes her Mismagius have zero weaknesses with Terra Electric. And if she's lucky, then Charge Beam can become extremely powerful after only a couple of boosts, which happens 70% of the time. No, that is not an exaggeration. Furthermore, if Spark paralyzes any of your previous Pokemon, which happens a generous 30% of the time, then Hex will do double damage and all but ensure a KO. For only being the 4th gym leader, Ino definitely seems to know her stuff, and is easily Paldea's toughest gym leader. Mostly just for being the only one who even remotely knows how to use terrestrialization properly. So after all that, who do you think is the toughest gym leader? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to check out the worst gym leaders video, which will be somewhere around here. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.